We got us a corpse and cartridge occasion.
Before we get into this video, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. We're so close to 40,000 subs. Season 3 just released, and I want to give you guys kind of a look at everything that's currently going on while we're waiting for the developers to give us some more updates. The first thing that happened, and this one is pretty major, is the closing of one of the legendary arcades in Japan. You know, there's not many arcades that exist all over the world. Some of them are still holding on, but this one here, as you can see in this video, they let that door down for one final time, and everyone stood outside, cheered, celebrated, recorded, just appreciated the moment. You have another clip here from earlier in the day where someone went actually inside and just recorded and kind of was like archiving like the arcade in its final form. This arcade is what the developers went to, what so many pro players went to, what so many casuals went to. This board here, you can see all of the different signatures of people who visited this place. So it is kind of sad to see that this place is closing, but at the same time, nothing lasts forever, and arcades has been dying ever since the early 2000s. Now, as we move away from the past and we step forward to the future is the new characters. The future is the new game, the new characters, and what they can do, which is mostly buffs, like you see here with this buff version of Marizu. But the past isn't all gone. You have a very exciting news coming from Team Spooky, where one of the legendary tournaments that took place during Tekken 7, to my understanding, it was largely online, but they're bringing it back. But this time offline. This is great news because a lot of people are quitting Tekken. A lot of people are losing faith in Tekken. There's a lot of places that are struggling to continue to have players. Like, for example, there was this local that said, shout out to Bamco for putting the basics back into Tekken and the players back into locals. And this is a Tekken 8 local where there's no one there. So while some places are closing down, it's good to see that legends, icons, and people of the past are still going hard in Tekken 8, still keeping the game alive, and they're still giving the players who do want to play an opportunity to play. And also, while we're on the topic of the past, for those of you who don't know, on March 17th, I think this was the same time Season 3 went live, Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection, the PSP version, became available in the PlayStation catalogs for you to play. A lot of people were kind of sad that it is the PSP version. I personally don't know why Bandai Namco isn't releasing the full game itself, or even taking it a step further and putting it into Tekken 8 Lounge where players can play head-to-head. That has been a requested feature since launch, but if I had to take a guess, I think this is more so about data collection. The Tekken developers spoke in the past about not being sure if the players even wanted a product like this. Some people push for it. Sometimes it seems like a lot of people, but them releasing it in this way, which is kind of seems like a very cheap way to do it, maybe more so a cost-effective way of seeing how many players actually want it. So just go there and experience it if you have the classic catalog. If you don't want to purchase it, I totally understand. The reason why that is because what the game is offering right now isn't really living up to player expectation. Currently right now on Steam, the recent reviews is mostly negative. Now this is a lot of negative reviews, but it's not necessarily a official review bomb. It's not that much backlash this time around because a lot of people are kind of expecting to be disappointed. There is still some hope because the Tekken developers released a dev portal. Now I made one video about it where I kind of just looking at what's in there. I think I'll make another video soon just to see what's happening and what kind of videos are being posted, what kind of feedback is being given to the developers. Because I know when you look into the character by character section, there's a lot of downplay and there's a lot of controversy. But before we get to that, just looking at the official tweet about the dev portal, they're just talking about some of the things that they want to go after. And I think this is important to understand because a lot of people are getting confused with what they mean by feedback. And you can see here that it says bugs, reports, and gameplay issues, reports, cheating, and toxic behavior. In here, they don't really say that they're looking to take balancing feedback. They're only trying to address bugs, which kind of was my initial prediction of what this will be. The developers don't want to hear no feedback about how to balance the game. They only want you to tell you what isn't working properly with the game, and then they'll fix that. Michael Murray says, this is a rare tweet from him, yes, we are reading the threads. Thank you to everyone already participating. The portal is now the only place where we are constantly reading. So if you want to be heard, this is the place. So they're trying to remove the conversation off of Twitter and into this portal where they will listen. A lot of people, think it's a good idea that the conversation is no longer clogging up the entirety of the Tekken section on Twitter. Some people believe that it's the developers trying to take the conversation off of Twitter to where they could then ignore it and not have it affect anything. A respected member of the community, Blast Islami, says, respectfully, this doesn't line up with my experience. When I criticized Fakaram in Tekken 7, I was quietly blacklisted, then ignored when I tried to discuss it privately. It's hard to believe that feedback is taken in good faith when that's how constructive criticism is handled. Blacklisting is something that the developers are very good at, just like blocking. They've done it to many different content creators, many different pro players, many different professional commentators. So it makes sense that people are hesitant about giving feedback, but that doesn't mean that people aren't giving feedback. This Reddit post here just looked at each individual character section where you could go and give feedback, and it just documented which characters are receiving the most comments. And as you can see here, the two characters at the time who had the most comments were Reina and Kazuya, followed by some of the most popular characters in the game like King, Brian, and Dragunov. You guys can see the rest of the list and how it plays out. One thing that I will say that, and this is just something that I noticed about the Kazuya mains and Reina mains from making content, is whenever I do bring up those characters, like if I talk about Reina's 442 or if I talk about Kazuya's being cheap or something like that, the comment section will be filled with people disagreeing. And that's because there's a lot of players and they are very passionate about their character, but also at the same time, some of them disagree. You have some Mishima purists who want the character to be the way that he always was, but then you have some new people who want the characters to do something more, something greater, and keep up with everyone else. So a lot of comments being there for those two characters makes so much sense for me after doing content creation for all these years. The dangerous aspect of this is for all of these characters, a lot of people are in there downplaying and just requesting the most diabolical buffs. When this happened on Twitter, we were able to respond to them, make fun of them, and tell the developers that we don't want that. But now that this is going on basically in a Discord where not everyone is paying attention, it's much more likely to go unchecked. Now, one thing that I want to talk about as well is Tekken's relationship for PlayStation. Tekken, believe it or not, is one of the games that gave PlayStation an advantage over its competitors way back in the day. When Tekken 1 and Tekken 3 and all of these games were being created, Tekken 5, it was groundbreaking. It was phenomenal. It was genre defining, genre creating, world changing. And since it was on the PlayStation platform, it gave them a huge advantage. And ever since those older games, the relationship between the two companies have been unbreakable. You can see this even with Tekken 8 marketing, where PlayStation was pushing Tekken 8 just as hard as Bandai Namco was. And it's cool to see these two companies have that relationship, but at the same time, PlayStation just released a website where they document the greatest heroines on PlayStation. Now, of course, they have a lot of characters that they created. That's very like PlayStation to do that, put all of their characters at the very top. You have icons like Lara Croft is there. That makes sense. Last of Us 2, that's their game. But then if you scroll down past, Jill Valentine and some of these other characters, you get to a point here where they have Chun-Li. This is super fascinating because even PlayStation knows that Chun-Li in Street Fighter is more powerful of a brand than Tekken. And when I talk about how Tekken needs to fight back on a brand level, this is why. How do we get Reina, Lily, Jun Kazama, Zhao Yu, some of the female characters of our game on this list? If their partner PlayStation don't even consider their characters to be the greatest, how can we expect the rest of the game in space? And this is where addressing criticism and listening to players come into play. You have this tweet here from Blackheart where he's talking about all of the game-breaking bugs that currently exist in the game and also how the developers haven't acknowledged it at all. In Season 2, we saw they did a quick emergency patch to fix the issues that went on there, but this time around, they're radio silent. How long will that silent last? How long will it take for some of these issues to be fixed? Will we have to wait until Kurimitsu? Will we have to wait longer? We don't know because the developers haven't said anything. You also have this tweet here from Atif where he says he doesn't understand how he's supposed to improve at Tekken because it's just 50-50 situation. You can understand what your opponent is doing against you, but you can still lose to it because you guessed wrong. And when the pro players are even struggling to this, succumbing to this, what do you think is happening on a lower level of skill like the Moonsault Slayer. It is just madness and robberies, and this is why I think so many players are upset when they play this game and so stressed out when they play this game, because they know what's happening but they still lose. And what's really crazy about this is how Tekken doesn't seem to be slowing down with this gameplay design. In Season 2, there was a couple of characters who were very fun to fight against, but that is changing as time goes on. Like with Feng Wei, Kakoma highlights here in his tweet how he is now becoming a stance dancing character. The characters who don't really go through all the stances, every update, the developers know that, they see that, and they give them more stances. So where does this all lead us? Where does Tekken go from here? I don't know. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and bye-bye.